I'm going to walk you through how to do a VPN with Google Cloud. There's some things that you'll have to do to get it to work. So what I've done here, I have two environments, 5217, 5215. I'm going to make a VPN to connect these two. So if I look at 5217, I've got just basically a bunch of VMs in here. I'm going to use the DB server to kind of test this. And then if I look at my 5215, I just have a kind of a test VM in here I can use to test to see if my VPN is working. So pretty straightforward. I've got them turned off right now because we're going to need to make some changes. Notice that I'm using my default network in both of these. And by default, in Google, if you look in your subnets for your network, for the default network, you can see they're using like, all these different subnets. And the problem is if we create a VPN between the two different environments, they're going to share the same subnets because they use the same basic settings. And you can't do that in a VPN. If you do have subnets that are same on both sides of a tunnel in the VPN, you have to do some natting for that to work. Could we do natting? Sure, that's another option. If you wanted to do natting, you certainly could. But instead, I'm going to create a new network. So I'm going to do a new network and then move all my systems to that new network and then build my VPNs between the two with these new networks. You don't technically have to make a network on both sides of the VPN, but I'm going to do that anyway, just to kind of demonstrate how this works and to keep it kind of simple. But like I said, you don't really have to do that. So I'll start on the 5215 side. So on this side, I'm going to go to my networks. So if I click on VPC networks, you can see there's my default network. I'm going to create a new one. I'm going to call it my iTax 5215 net. Everything else here is pretty I'm going to leave it to custom subnet because I'm going to make my own subnet. And then down here I'm going to put my first subnet in. So my first subnet, I'm going to call it the same thing, iTax 5215 subnet. I'm going to put it in the same region that I know my machine is in. So my machine's running in US Central 1, so I'm going to select the same region. Otherwise, I won't be able to use it. I'll use IPv4, single stack is fine. For the IP range, so when you set up a subnet, you have to tell it what range of IP addresses. On this one, I'm going to go with 192.168.0.0 /20. I'm going to make it a little more interesting. We'll do I'll do 192.168.168.0/24. So that means this is the network portion of my address. That's the node portion of my address. I can only have 8 machines on this little network, right? I'm sorry, 254 machines on this network. That's pretty much it. I'm going to leave all this the same. And I'm going to come down here and create it. So that should create that subnet. Or that network and that subnet. So we'll give that a second. All right, so now I have that subnet and that network running. If I go look at my my VM instances, now I'm going to edit this virtual machine that I created. I'm going to scroll down to networks, somewhere in here. Oh, sorry, I have to hit edit. Now I can scroll down the network. So under networking, so right now it's on the default network. I'm going to change that to this new iTax 5215 net, and then it's going to automatically select the only subnet I have available. And then one more step, you have to come down here. By default, this is going to be set to ephemeral custom. You have to set it to ephemeral automatic. And then I'll save that. So I'll take a second. All right, so now back to my virtual machine. If I come over here and I start this machine, when it starts up, it's going to get an internal IP address, which is, as you can see, it's already listed here. It's going to get the 192.168.168.2. So let me give that a second to start. So that machine is now started. It's got an external IP address. So in a perfect world, I should be able to connect to that external IP with SSH. So I'm going to give it a try. Now you're going to notice this is going to sit here for a while. It's never going to connect. So why is that? Why is that not connecting? Well, the reason is because of the firewall. So because this is a brand new network, we've never used it. It was not created by Google. There are no firewall rules for that network, and the default behavior for Google, if there's no rule, it doesn't allow the traffic, right? So I have to create a firewall rule to allow SSH. So I'm going to call this my ITAX 5217 SSH, because this will be my rule to allow SSH. So the network's going to be 5215 net. That's the network I want. Traffic that's coming into this network to any instance. I don't care where it's going, because I want this on for everything, and I don't care where it came from, right? So from anywhere. And I'm going to come down here and just allow port 22. So this means any traffic coming into my network on port 22 is going to be allowed for my ITAX network, and it has a priority of 1,000, right? So it'll run pretty early. You can see there's a similar rule here for my default network, but this is my new network, right? So now if I come back over here, now that works. Hopefully I know the password. Yeah, there we go. So I'm in. So I'm able to connect to that. So that works, right? I've got my little VM running. Now I should be able to do whatever I want on that VM. Now I'm going to do the same thing over on my other set of systems. So I'm going to go over here to 5217. And in here, my first step is under Networks. So I'm going to go to my VPC Networks. I have to create a new network on this side as well. Again, you don't have to, but so this will be ITAX 5217-net. Although I think I used the same name on the other one. I think I accidentally used 5215, but I think it'll still work. We'll call it a subnet. We're going to put it under US Central 1, just like I did on the other one. But this time, my subnet, I need to make something different. So I'm going to make this one 200.0. So, and you can use any number you want. You just got to make sure it doesn't overlap with whoever you're working with for your VPN. And that's pretty much it. I'm going to go ahead and create that subnet, and then we'll create our firewall rule. Okay, so it's creating. While that's creating, I should be able to go and create the firewall rule. I don't really have to wait for it. So you can see I don't really have any rules in here. So we're going to create a firewall rule. This is going to be ITAX-5217 SSH. We're going to use the 527 net that I just created. All instances on the network. Source will be everyone. And we're going to use port 22. So again, exactly what we did before. All right, so now we have that set up. I'm going to go to my virtual machines. And for the DB server, because that's the one I'm going to test with, I'm going to move this over to that other network. And technically I can move them all over, right? I could take all my machines and just shift them over to that network. So we're going to change our network interface from default to ITAX. That's the correct subnet. I want to make sure we set this to ephemeral automatic. We'll save that. And assuming I did that right, my machine spins up. It should get this new IP address. So let's take a look. So there's our public IP address. I'm going to try to SSH to it. I'll give it a second. Oh, I made one little mistake in the firewall rule. It's /0, not /24. So if you're following along and made the mistake, just go back in your firewall rule and set it to /0. That'll allow all. Sorry about that. So I'll save that rule. It should update pretty quick. There we go. So I can get in now. All right, so now I can SSH to these two machines. This is the one in my 5217 network. This is my 5215. This is in 5217 in two different environments, right? Two completely different accounts. Now we're going to get to the point we're going to start thinking about setting up a VPN. So one of the first things you're going to need in order to set up a VPN, I'm going to go into my VPC networks. So taking a look at your IP addresses, so these are all your IP addresses that are being managed. I have two external IP addresses here. In order to use a VPN, you have to have a gateway, right? You have to have a public IP address that the tunnel connects to on both sides. Because remember, we're pretending that they're not in Google here. They're completely separate environments. So they have to have a public IP address to connect to. So you're going to have to create a gateway address. Now, Google will do this for you automatically when you create your gateway. So we're going to do that here. We're going to create the gateway and just let it do it for us. But you could go in here if you want to see your IP addresses and what's being managed. You can certainly do that here. Not sure why, but I always have to go in here to find VPN. So if you can't find VPN, just search for it. You'll see VPN under network connectivity. I'm not really sure how to get to this from the hamburger menu, but you can always just search for it. But if you haven't built a VPN yet, this screen's going to come up. Basically on both, so you're gonna have to do this in both networks to create your VPN. So on this side, I'm gonna go in here. I use classic because we're just keeping this simple. So I'm gonna create a classic VPN. So in order to create the VPN, it recognizes I need a gateway first. So I'm gonna call this ITAX 5217 gateway. The network I want to associate it with is my 5217 network. US Central 1 is good. And then in here, we have to create an IP address. So I'm going to call this ITAX 5217 IP. You can call these whatever you like. I just try to keep them semantically accurate. So now I've got an IP address. If you click in here, you can see it. There's the IP. And then I'm going to come down here and create a new tunnel, although I'm not really ready to create the tunnel yet, so we're not going to do this yet. So I'm going to just delete that, and I'm just going to let it create this VPN gateway. So we're going to create it. Now it's creating that gateway. Now I have to go in and do the same thing for 5215. I have to go in here, create my gateway. So this one I'll call ITAX 5215 gateway. That'll be in my 5215 network. I have to create an IP address, so ITAX 5215 IP. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to open up Notepad++. I'm going to start documenting this stuff. So I'm going to make a list here. So my ITAX 5215 environment, the IP is going to be 34.69.212.51. And I'm going to go ahead and create that. Now I got to go document this one because I forgot what it was. So if I look at my VPN gateway, I need this IP address. Okay, so I got that documented. The other thing I want to document is the subnets that I'm interconnecting. So the subnet on 5215 was 192.168.168.0/24. And then the subnet on my other environment was 192.168.200.0/24. So I'll show you what I'm doing here. So I'm basically documenting in Notepad++. I'll bring it over for you. So these are my two networks, right? I'm documenting the gateway IP address, the subnet on both of these, because I'm going to need them both in order to set these up. and you're going to need some other stuff too, but we'll start with this. So now I can go to my VPN tunnels, and I'm going to create a new VPN tunnel. So I'm just going to click this button to create a new tunnel. I'm going to select the gateway. So in this case, it's the 5217 gateway because I'm in the 5217 environment. So it's going to be attached to that gateway that's on that 5217 network that we created. So the remote peer IP addresses is going to be the gateway for 52. In this case, since I'm in 52, I'll drag this over. Since I'm in 5217, I need to tell it how to get to 5215, which is going to be this IP address here. So that's going to be the remote peer. Then we need a pre-shared key. I'm going to let Google generate a pre-shared key for me, and then I'm going to document that. So, and it's going to be used on both sides. So the PSK for this VPN, I'm going to document that. And then we're going to make this a route-based VPN, and I have to tell it the network that it's going to connect to. So the network I need is this one right here, because I need to tell it how it's going to route to 5215. And of course, that couldn't be a network on my side, right? That wouldn't work. It has to be the network on the other side. That's why you have to have different subnets. So I'm going to go ahead and create that. That should work. So it's going to create that tunnel. Now I'm going to do the same thing on 5215. So I'm going to go to this side, create a VPN tunnel, use my 5215 gateway, and the remote IP address, again, I need that public IP address for 5217. I'm going to leave my VPN set to IKE, and then I'm going to come over here. Need the same pre-shared key, right? This is the how we authenticate each other's VPNs. This is going to be a route-based, and if you recall, there's the subnet on 5217 is this one. And I'm going to create that side of the tunnel. All right, so now if I go to VPN, it's initiating this tunnel. And if I go to 5217, it's initiating this side of the tunnel. So eventually, now you can see over here, VPN status, first handshake. That means we're trying to establish a connection. Oh, there we go. It says established over here. And if I check on 5215, this one also says established. So I've officially established my VPN between these two networks, right? So I have an established tunnel. And I'm just checking both sides of this tunnel by going back and forth. Now, if you're working with a partner, you guys would just be working together in your own environments. You won't have to have two, obviously. But now it's time to test this. Now, here's the first problem we're going to find is you're not going to be able to get, traffic's not going to be allowed into these networks, even over the VPN, because the firewall is not allowing it yet, right? So Google's default behavior is to block traffic if you don't have a firewall rule. So that means I have to go into my VPC network, to my firewall, and in the firewall, I have to create a rule for my ITACS 5217 network to allow traffic into my network. So I'm going to create a firewall rule. So this is on the 5215. So this is going to be ITACS 5215. Oops. And I'm going to call it allow 5217. So I'm going to allow 5217 into my network. So it's a rule for 5215 network that's going to allow traffic in when it's coming from 5217. So this is going to be an ingress rule. It's going to allow when the target is all instances on my network. I don't care where it came from. The source IP is going to be, I'm going to put the subnet for the remote network. So in this case, 5217 is 200.0/24. So anything in that subnet is going to be allowed on the into this network. And I'm just going to allow all, right? I don't really care. Just allow everything in because I trust these two networks. Now you could be more granular and only allow certain traffic if you wanted to. So this will allow all traffic coming into this network. Now I need to do the same thing on 5217. I have to allow traffic. So let me create my firewall rule on this side. So this one is ITACS 5217 allow 5215. So kind of the opposite, right? This is for my 5217 net, all traffic coming in. I'm going to allow traffic going to any node from 192.168.168.0/24, because that's the network on the other side. And again, I'm just going to allow all traffic. And I'm going to create that. All right, so that's running. Now, the other thing is, if we want to try to test this by pinging, ICMP is not allowed right now, so I would have to allow that as well. Actually, I think we selected allow all, so ping should work. So let's go back to our machines. All right, so my web server is on 200.2. So if I come over here, if I'm on this server, I should be able to ping 192.168.200.2, and it works. I can ping it, right? I'm pinging it through that tunnel. And if we want to validate that this all works, I'm going to ping the other way too. So I'm going to ping 192.168.168.2. Actually, I don't remember what that IP is. Let's look. So for 5215, that machine is, yep, 192.168.168.2. So that should work. All right, that's not responding to ICMP. So either my machine is blocking it, this machine might block it, or it's or I still have a problem with my firewall, right? One or the other. Let's just check what the IP address is on here. Ah, there's my problem. For some reason, it used the default network. I thought I selected the right one in here. So we're going to delete this and recreate it, because you can't change the network. So we'll create our firewall rule. This is going to be ITAX-5215. Allow 5217. All right, I'm going to make sure I leave that selected. It looks correct. And we're going to allow anything in the network, the source IP range. So the source IP is going to be 192.168. Just going to recall from memory here. So I want to let everything in from 5217. So I'm going to use that subnet. All right, that should let all my traffic coming in from 5217. I'm going to allow all, so that'll include everything. Name is already in use. All right. Guess I didn't delete the other one, so I'll just add a 2 on there. Oh, I guess it deleted it, but maybe there's just some overlap. Either way, that's now created. So if I come back over here, doing a little troubleshooting here, but so what I'm going to do here, I'm just going to run netcat on port 999 on this server, and then from this server I'm going to try to connect to port 999 by sending the string foo, and assuming that just worked. It just worked. See, and I can send other stuff. I'll just put other stuff here, hit enter, come back over here. I'll tell you what, I need to control C that, and I'll just put foobar on here. Oh, I need to run this again. Come back over, and you can see it worked, right? It received foobar. So now I know these two are connected, and I'm doing it with my internal IP address, right? So this is bound to port 999, and I'm connecting to it on its internal IP address from this network, and it works. Because this machine is 192.168.200, right? It's on a different network. I'll show you. So this one is on 192.168.200.2. So I'm able to connect between these two networks. And I just opened the traffic between the two. So hopefully this will help you get this set up.